一份白宫秘密疫情文件曝光，18个州被划为疫情红区。
看到这些香港市民呢，高喊着口號，叫香港加油，穆以培。
控咗咧就係催淚水劑啦，同埋胡椒噴霧。嗱，而家警方係將佢哋嘅防線咧就褪後咗嘅。咁啊，示威者咧就一路步步進逼啦，一路將佢哋嗰個位咧就向前。
某说。
我見到警方嘅人員係喺度維持秩序，雙方係冇任何嘅接觸，我都睇到呢啲場面，覺得都幾安慰嘅。
My name is Shulie Miss Firestone, and I'm 22 years old. During the shooting of this film, I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts with a major in painting and drawing from the Art Institute of Chicago. I don't like Chicago. I never liked it from the beginning, and I don't feel that I belong anywhere else. And New York is the place to go when you don't belong anywhere, because nobody else does either there. I really like a certain grand atmosphere about Chicago that in the beginning I didn't like, but it sort of brought on me. It's kind of a Van Buren Street quality, you know, kind of a gray, windy day, sort of a quality that's good for photographers, but not for painters. You know, all the little men wandering around being kind of vaguely dissatisfied. That's the quality I want to get. And that is probably everywhere, but only Chicago will have a certain brand that I like. I always like the way films are objective and don't really make you feel the presence of the director. I always like to feel that I'm picking into things I wouldn't see otherwise, and I hate to say that violent.
Isn't there a special problem with a documentary filmmaker whose essence recording a personal problem, the personal problem is right there, something you can relate to as a man?
Well, as one category of documentary, I think it's a good thing. I wouldn't be against that being done, but I don't think anyone should say that all documentary filmmakers should relate personally to what it is they're dealing with. You know, it's something I deal with a lot as a photographer when I'm taking photographs. I was taking a photograph of this woman, and this old woman. She was sitting in front of this restaurant window, and she was wearing the old furs, and she was sort of dried up, and she was picking apart at this chicken leg, you know? And I just feel ashamed of trying to take a photograph of her. It would have been a really great photograph, but she just kept looking at me, and I feel horrible. I couldn't take the photograph, and I think sometimes you just reach a point where you can't use people's situation as subject matter. about 12, I started to have a lot of religious doubt. And I remember I was sitting in class and think, there's no God. And I had a wave of guilt feeling. It would just come rushing over me. Almost physical pain. And then I'm thinking, and I was sort of torn to myself with the things. I tried to block them out. And, one voice would say, oh, that's all rubbish. And the other voice would say, don't think about it. Don't think about it. And this went on for months. I was just completely eaten up by it. And I just tried very hard to block it out. And I thought that if I got to my way to school, and I knew what those schools were like to some extent, that, they would brainwash me. And that's what I really wanted. I wanted someone to completely eliminate those doubts so that I'd never be tortured again. Now, even though I'm not religious, I still feel like the religion has gone into other channels. But it's still there. I still have a basically religious outlook, and maybe that's what makes me feel not very contemporary.
Delegates to this convention do not know that thousands of young people are being beaten in the streets of Chicago.
I don't think it's true. Well, I tell you what, I was with it up until then, especially the idea about these businesses who have been devastated. And I think
Unless you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please. I know you won't, but don't push me. Take your hands off of me unless you intend to arrest me. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
My name is Shulie Firestone and I am 22 years old. During the shooting of this film, I received a Bachelor of Arts degree in painting and drawing from the University of Chicago. I don't like Chicago. I never liked it from the beginning, and I don't feel like I belong anywhere else either. And I know New York is the place you go when you feel like you don't belong anywhere else because nobody there does either. I've learned to like a certain kind of gray quality about Chicago. That in the beginning I didn't like, but it's sort of grown on me. It's kind of a Van Buren free quality. You know, a gray, windy day sort of quality. That's good for photographers, but not so good for painters. You know, all the little men wandering around, kind of vaguely dissatisfied? That's the quality I'm going to get. That's probably everywhere, but only in Chicago, only certain brands I like. I've always liked how films are objective and don't really make you feel the presence of the director. I always like to feel that I'm peeking into things that I wouldn't see otherwise, and I hate to see that violated, you know?
But isn't that a special problem with the documentary filmmaker? Because as he's recording a personal problem, the personal problem is right there and something you can relate to as a man?
Well, as one category of documentary, I just think it's a good thing. I wouldn't be against that being done. I don't think anyone should say all documentary filmmakers should relate personally to what they're dealing with. You know, it's something I deal with a lot as a photographer when I'm taking photographs. I was taking a photograph of this woman, this old woman. She was sitting right in front of this restaurant window, and she was wearing these old furs. And she was just sort of dried up, and she was picking apart at this chicken leg, you know, and I just felt ashamed of trying to take a photograph of her, and it would have been a really great photograph, but she just kept looking at me, and I felt horrible. I couldn't take the photograph, and I think sometimes you just reach a point where you just can't use other people's situations as your subject matter. When I was about 12, you know, I started having a lot of religious doubts. And I remember I would sit in class and think, there's no God. And then have a wave of guilt feeling. It would just come rushing over me, almost physical, you know, and then I would sort of torment myself with this. I tried to block them out. And you know, one voice would be saying, oh, it's all rubbish. And the other voice would say, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. And this went on for months. I just completely eaten up by it. And I tried just very hard to block it out. And I thought that if I got sent away to school, and I knew what these schools were like to some extent, but you know, they would brainwash me, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted somebody to completely eliminate these doubts so I'd never be tortured again.
I tell myself that when I'm working, I don't have to worry about happiness as long as I'm working. But of course, when I'm working, I don't have to worry about it as long as I'm producing. I'm afraid of getting trapped in a sort of day-to-day living. I want to somehow catch time short and not just go along and drift along in it. The essential reason for anyone to make an artistic creation is to surmount the fact that that you're just a living organism that's getting older, with a past and a future, and so on, and to somehow transcend that. In an art world, you can do anything. You can make the world exactly the way you want it. I mean, as far as God's concerned, I'd like to be God. I don't really worry about someone out there as far as it pertains to me, because if it doesn't pertain to man, then it doesn't pertain to anything. And I don't really care about it. I am, but I think I've been put down so much because I used to be so wrapped up in my own problems, in my own affairs, that I would talk to anybody about it. And I would analyze endlessly, and people hate that, you know? And I would make every effort to shut up about it. And I find it when people ask me about something, I have to get over a lot of hesitancy whether they really want to hear it. And I don't really feel the need to talk to somebody who's interested in listening to me. You know, I sort of worked through things. I'm not 18 anymore. And I don't have to talk to everybody who will listen. I just sort of find it a lot easier to keep things to myself. I've become immeasurably more inarticulate since I started. I mean, in 4 years, I've become completely inarticulate.
What 4 years?
Since I started art school. I mean, even at 18, I was more articulate than I am now. And I find that I'm I just don't even try. I don't even bother trying to say it anymore.
You're not concerned about the words anymore.
I am. I've just become so defensive about being verbal. You know, people act as if it's some sort of flaw, you know. In art circles, it's like, well, you're verbal. It's like, oh, better get rid of that quick. You know, I've become so defensive about it that when somebody accuses me of being verbal, I just shut up or something. I work at the post office part-time, and even though the pay is pretty good, and if you get up at 6 and you're the only person on the subway, you feel like some sort of derelict.
I work at the post office part-time. And even though the pay's pretty good, when you have to get up at 6 and you're the only person on the subway, you feel like some sort of derelict. People all around are just waiting to take their hostility out on someone. It's really frightening. Like at the post office, the supervisors are just little guys. They've been there 30 years. They started in the Depression or something. And some of them are really nice. I have to give them credit. But most of them are petty little bastards. And they're standing there waiting to nab you and to show their power. And it's really annoying because, you know, these are just the kind of little people who got into power in, you know, Nazi Germany, and you know just what they can do when they have a position to back them up. I don't know about art school. I think it was a waste, mostly. But I don't know what else I could have done under the circumstances. I mean, at the point I did think of dropping out, which was very frequent. It's like there wasn't really any alternatives, you know? I didn't know where to get the same thing, even though it was so little and so bad. I may have wandered in search of direction or guidance for as long as I was in art school. So, I don't know if I made the wrong decision. It was a hell of a long time, though.
I was on independent study this year, which meant I did all my painting at home, but I did have to bring it in every semester for critiques.
Explain the compositions a little bit more. They look so a little on the dreary side.
Well, I'm interested in dealing with a certain solitary quality. This is a civil service exam. It doesn't really matter what it is, any classroom situation or rigidly run.
Is there anonymity involved in these?
Yes, anonymity and a certain dehumanization and alienation that people have to go through in their work. I've been working at the post office, and I think that these works sort of deal with the feeling that I get when I'm there.
Okay. Of these compositions, which do you find the most successful?
Of these two studies?
Yes, the larger one or the smaller one.
Oh, you mean these two?
Yeah, I'm attracted to the smaller one because of its completeness of shape. Its formal order is much better, the figures seem to work together much better.
Yeah, well...
And the other one seems to be a very indecisive thing.
And the thing is that it's realistic, but somehow the figures in the background just seem to be so far away.
Too far.
Yeah, that it becomes almost symbolic. I mean, the other one is just what it is.
You know, it's very strange, your work. I'm not criticizing, but I'm observing what you've done.
Well, as far as the male, as you know, most men have been artists, with the exception of Michelangelo and the Greeks, who were homosexuals, and
Well, no, all I'm saying is there's a certain strange quality to the work.
If there's a certain softness or something to it.
Something that can be strengthened. A sort of mystery. The grotesqueness about the figure, or the form of the figure.
That's fine. I'm very interested in grotesqueness, and I think that that's something that comes across.
I find your comparison between the photographs and paintings to be very interesting, because the theme in all of them is the same. Oh, is your interest more so in people or the way that they go about their lives? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Well, I feel as though photography is a more direct medium for you. Even though you don't like it, it's an easier and more straightforward way to express yourself than painting. I mean, in the paintings, in my opinion at least, the most successful one is the one that's able to embody this poetic, symbolic quality, as opposed to the photographs, which just portray realistically the things exactly as you found them.
So, why do you use photography and the camera as much as you do and still indulge in these paintings?
Well, I think that it's an important way to get through to what I want, but...
But you don't like it.
I just feel that it's too easy. And I never really connected with the camera or the equipment.
No, Shirley. Look, you're so young.
I didn't eliminate
You should
the
just
possibility.
try. Look, just try. Explore things. Try new things.
Yes, you should try other techniques.
I don't see why I should have to do these things that I don't want to do.
Sometimes you just have to try it, and then you can discard it.
The painting there, the figure on the chair. Is that a complete statement to you?
Well, I did it in one sitting. So.
Right. But you're evading the question, Shirley, so much.
Do I feel it's complete?
Yes. Can you answer that?
Yeah.
It's not a difficult question.
I feel it's complete.
Well, don't you feel that there's perhaps some sort of spatial ambiguity between the relationship between the seated figure and the chair in relation to the chair? Don't you think that perhaps the chair could have been brought forward more?
Maybe.
You know, it looks as though they're so unrelated. Physical placement. They're very related in tone and color, however, they're not.
Yeah, well, maybe you're right.
Look, in films, Shirley, you have this sense. You have a sense for tone and personality and placement that I keep thinking that cinema is the right way for you to go about your work.
Well, I've thought about it, and it's certainly the most grounded form, but the mechanics and the expenses involved.
Sure, but you're so young.
If what you're worried about is technique, you should just direct a film. If you find yourself in this situation, you should direct a film and somebody else can shoot it.
Yeah, well,
You have the ideas, you have the vision, and you could make it work.
I just generally identify with minority groups as opposed to the large masses, you know, the large homogenous mass of people. I just automatically feel a bond with those who aren't exactly in things, but I just assume connect with those who are perceptive enough to see through things and not just outside them, you know, who aren't just outside them.
And how would you relate that to this question of being part of a generation?
Which generation?
Your generation.
How would I relate them to being a part of my generation?
Yeah, I mean, This is something that's very strong among so many people your age, that they see themselves to be very importantly a part of an important generation.
Well, I wouldn't say there are many who feel alienated from it.
No, I'm saying that there are many who feel a part of it, not who feel alienated, but who feel very much a part of it.
Oh, you said that they feel a part of it, and I said I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, I know that's not very hip. I'm sorry, it just happens to be true. I didn't say it wasn't hip, but it isn't. It isn't very hip.
Why?
What's hip?
What's your conception of it?
To live in the now.
To live in the now? Well, where's that?
The now. Right here and now. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Live in the now. There's this big fear of society so structured, and everyone is beating you and whipping you to get somewhere and do something. What for? Just enjoy the now. Life is fun. Life is pleasant. Why should we worry about anything? Sure, that's fine. Good for them. I don't care. I want to give it some form. Otherwise, I don't leave any imprint, and it doesn't... You see, I think reality is a little chaotic and meaningless. And unless I give it some form, it doesn't have enough static control. I mean, I care about the now, sure. After a long day of work, I wouldn't mind going for a walk. I mean, it's just not enough for me to live in the now. I hate any day that goes by that I haven't made some kind of landmark. Because it just goes by so fast. And it just sort of drifts on by, and I hate the shapelessness of it.
What about relationships with men? Intimate relationships, personal relationships, sexual relationships?
Yeah, what's wrong with them?
Are they in any way an obstacle?
No, I don't think so. Of course, it depends on who you are in a relationship with. If you get involved with a man who doesn't agree with you on this sort of thing, then it's going to be very energy consuming, because you are constantly going to be arguing with this person about what position you're in relationship to them. But if you get involved with someone who agrees with you about these sorts of things, then I don't see why there should be a problem. But I think it's very difficult, because many men have these strange standards, and they aren't very rational.
Have you ever gotten involved with a man who doesn't agree with you on this?
Yes, but I don't know if I want that in a film. Any influential woman or any person that is involved in the arts is going to have problems with men because they don't agree with us still.
You mean they don't think you should be doing anything?
They don't say that. They wouldn't come out and say that, but really that's what it boils down to. You should be interested in them first. And when you get older, of course, there's this element of children, that you're not feminine if you don't have babies, and they're not masculine if you don't have babies. This whole fertility idea. I don't understand the hang-up about it. If anything, I'm worried about being too feminine. It's too dangerous. I'm always tempted in the direction of becoming too physical. I'm not saying that it's meaningless to be a mother. In a way, it's very limited because you are concerned about this one baby and taking care of its needs. And that can be very absorbing. You know, I've had a couple of friends that have had babies, and they're so absorbed for at least 5 years. They're completely absorbed with this baby, and they don't feel they need to do anything else. And it's very limited because if you aren't interested in this particular baby, then you have nothing to talk to them about. I think the only thing that can really save you is some sort of activity and project. No matter how foolish. I mean, as long as you care about it. It's something you put your love into. The only thing that can save you from what? From having a meaningless life, because who cares about it? I mean, sure, you care, and then you die, and then nobody cares. You're just another person, and you live, and you die, and nobody cares. I want to be a master of time, because it's not enough for me to live and die. I don't like it enough. It doesn't matter. I just keep thinking, I'm 22. What have I done? I want to do something. Instead of beauty and power occasionally, I want it all the time. To achieve a world where it's there all the time. In every word and every breathstroke. And not just now and then.
Most delegates to this convention do not know. Thousands of young people are being beaten in the streets of
一
Chicago.
份白宫秘密疫情报告中，被疫情影响。
这些香港市民呢，剛好口號叫香港加油，
用咗咧就係催淚水劑啦，同埋胡椒噴霧。嗱，而家警方係將佢哋嘅防線咧就褪後咗嘅。咁啊，示威者咧就一路步。